There's a part of me that I don't know if it's like I just grew up watching Diddy, and so he's a household name, and we all like know him in a sense. We feel like we know him.
Hmm.
A part of me that has like a little bit of sympathy, like, and I feel very conflicted about that. I mean, we already talked about Diddy a little bit, but Diddy's still very big in the news. So, um, I want to share a clip with you. Apparently, Diddy is not eating; he's on a hunger strike, and let me show you this clip, and then we'll discuss.
What about coffee?
I guess his first meal when he was first locked up was like Swedish meatballs, and
Did you send them to him?
I don't think that's the kind of balls he likes. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, they must have been little Swedish meatballs. Is that? Did I just take a shot at Justin Bieber? I don't know.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, what's going on here?
She looks like me. Who is that?
She looks like you. All
Right, hang on.
right.
Let me get my eyes a little crossed. Who is that?
He's a former federal prisoner himself who served time at 11 institutions across 5 states and is founder and director of Wall Street Prison Consultants. He advises people who are about to face the same plight, and he joins me now live. Okay, Larry, spill the tea. What are you hearing about Diddy's eating?
Well, I got an inside source there at MDC, and if they knew who it was, they'd really plot. When people go into custody, they have anxiety, they're depressed, a lot of things go through their mind. And one of the things they do is they stop eating. They lose a lot of weight. Look at somebody coming out of prison. They look like a POW or something, that they've been through the ringer. Now, there's a collateral issue that may be here. Look what happened to Jeff Epstein. I got people every day saying, you think they're going to Epstein him? And I go, well, I really don't know. But they can't have this guy do a suicide. It would look kind of funny. Now, imagine if somebody got to one of the correctional officers, and this could happen. They don't make a lot of money. And there's people out there that he has things on that do have a substantial amount of money. Imagine if someone paid someone off on the inside to actually poison his food, give him a heart attack, and he dies. And no one would really think anything of it. So that may be one of the reasons he's not eating. He's really, really paranoid. He's really, really scared. He doesn't know what to think. He doesn't know who to trust or what to believe. Then he had a religious visit also, and a dietitian come talk to him. Now, there's a possibility that he wants to go on a kosher diet. It's prepared a little bit differently. It's a religious diet. That could be another aspect as well. But I remember when I first went into custody at MDC Los Angeles, and I didn't eat for a couple of days, but this guy's been there about a week now. So he should be in a routine. And there's just so much, Ashley, there is so much disinformation that comes out. Like he has to get up at 6 o'clock to make his bed and mop his cell. That's for a regular housing unit at MDC. He's not getting out of the shoe. He doesn't have to make his bed really. He's probably laying in bed all day long, just stewing and thinking. So the situation and the conditions for him are completely different than it would be for a regular inmate. So your
So
is as
talk to
good
me,
as
Larry,
mine,
about
but
talk to me
yeah,
about the potential that this could be a protest because Ghislaine Maxwell famously said some pretty strident things about the MDC Brooklyn lockup and the food
well,
and how terrible it was, and that she
there's
had been
it's
losing a ton
several
of weight. Is it
BOP,
possible this is a protest?
well, it's several BOP institutions, Federal Bureau of Prisons institutions across the country. There's food strikes going on where people are refusing to eat because of the quality of the food and the way they're being treated. And that could have carried over to MDC. But on the other hand, he's sitting in the shoe. How did he hear about it? Unless he bought the little overpriced Sony Walkman radio. I bet they let him have that. Or maybe he talked to somebody on the phone on a limited call that told him, yeah, they're having a hunger strike and he's joining in that. remember the food is bland. The food is a lot of carbohydrates. It's kind of it fills you up, but you get sick eating it. I mean, there's mold in a lot of that food. The food coming to him is cold. It's not coming to him warm like it would be in a regular housing unit because they feed the people in the shoe last. Maybe he got sick from the food. That's another possibility. I mean, they may actually be moving him. Maybe he's concerned and his
Do you
lawyer's concerned,
know?
as I said,
Do you know,
about
Larry, if he's
somebody
still on
killing him.
suicide watch? Is he still
Yeah,
on
oh yeah,
suicide
he's
watch?
still on
You know?
suicide watch. The shrink is coming to see him several times a day, and at MDC they hand out psych meds like they're handing out M&Ms. So I don't know if he's taking them, but they're certainly available to him. I took them in MDC one time because I was having problems sleeping. And after I took it one time, you play a lot of chess in there, you do a lot of reading. I wasn't able to engage anybody. I couldn't think. I turned into a zombie. And after taking it one time, I stopped taking them.
Thanks for.
Wow.
Yeah. Sounds like he needed a pill right now.
So I was just thinking of something. So Freddie Mercury, one of my favorite artists, singer of Queen, died at, I guess, at 45.
Mm.
And he lived more of a life in those 45 years than most people get to live. If you could have Diddy's fame and fortune,
No.
listen, hang on, but not go out in disgrace. No, not go out in disgrace, but just like, hey, Sarah, you're going to be like the female Diddy, or you're going to be Sarah Vaughan. No, you're going to be, you're just going to be like a megastar. And then, how old is Diddy now?
He's in his 50s, maybe 53 or something like that.
So
I'm not
right.
sure.
Then in your 50s, you're not disgraced. You didn't do anything bad, but you just have to go live in a cell and eat carbohydrates. Would you take more than half of your life as a megastar and then end it just like in obscurity, just to have had, and people still talk about you and adore you? You know what I mean? Like I'm actually so vain that maybe I would go for that. Except I'd have to have coffee.
Let me tell you why I would say no, right? First of all, it sounds awful to be not only stuck in a cell like that for an indefinite amount of time, and now he's in the
Forever.
shoe. Well, and now he's in the shoe where he's definitely like not around people. He has like no freedom of movement whatsoever. At least like if you're in general pop, you can move around a little bit, you can interact with people. And to me, I mean, that is death, essentially. That is death. And I'm not done. That is death. And what I want to say is that I've thought about this before, right? Just like unrelated to Diddy, okay? Where I really look at like what's the real difference between a person who's really rich, right? And I'm not comparing that to a person who's poor, someone who's like middle class, right? The difference isn't that great. Like you're still getting to do the same things. You can still fly. You might not be on a private jet, but you can still have a very nice flight. You might even do business class, right? You can still go on vacations. You can still enjoy the ocean. You can still eat really good food. I'm sorry, but these like $1,000 plates, they're not that. I mean, just because some chef made them, or it's just ego. It's not like there's anything like there's a difference between this tomato and that tomato because it grew in this condition in that country, and now we're charging $1,000 per plate. This is all just like made stuff that's made up, so rich people can feel like that they're experiencing life in a very different way than other people. But you don't have to be rich to sleep in a very comfortable and nice bed. You don't have to be rich to enjoy great intercourse with a partner, or to experience love, to have children. So like really like the life between a really rich person and I'm not going to compare it to a poor person because that's obviously a very different standard of living, but like a medium, like a middle class person who's just doing okay. And that's why I wouldn't choose Diddy's life, because I can be middle class. Like, here's the thing: a person that doesn't have money could still go and party with Diddy. You know what I
Right.
mean? He was footing the bill, but me as a woman, and there comes the sun. Me as a woman, I could still have been at those parties. Thankfully, I wasn't. And been able to experience the same luxury as Diddy without Diddy's money.
100%. Look, I have a close friend who I work for musically, but a friend who is wealthy like Diddy. And I go to his parties and I play pickleball on his private pickleball court. And I skate in his backyard on his skate park, and I eat in fine restaurants, and he foots the bill when we're working. So yeah, so I actually enjoy the same luxury that he does when I'm with him. So being a nice person and being invited to those parties is kind of a cool currency, right? Um, I agree with you, but I'm vain. I want, Diddy will never be forgotten, whether it's for the infamy or the. I mean, No Way Out. When I got that record, man, the sun don't shine forever. Like we're always gonna be together. It's now or never. I love that. Like like what he created is in my head in a moment's notice. So I love. I wish I had that kind of influence. But yeah, I wouldn't take it. So have you ever been locked up?
No. And okay, this is horrible, especially considering like the next story that I'm going to share with you for the show. There's a part of me that I don't know if it's like I just grew up watching Diddy and so he's a household name and we all like know him in a sense. We feel like we know him.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me that has like a little bit of sympathy, like, and I feel very conflicted about that because it's like cognitive dissonance. Because on the one hand, I'm like, you're a monster. You did these horrible things to women, right? And now there's another allegation against him.
I
And I'll show
saw
you
that.
that. Yes, horrible. Accused of, graping, uh, this poor woman,
And she was
and
such an innocent. Yeah.
allegedly, and it's just, really, yeah, it's cognitive dissonance for me because on the one hand, thinking of Diddy starving in a cell and feeling like, I mean, suicidal, wanting to kill himself, part of me is like, man, I feel bad. But then I'm like, but
No,
you did these
I
things. So it's
believe
like,
me. I spoke about this the other day with someone. It's the same thing for me. It's like, for someone's reign as like, at the top to end just so horribly, and the idea of going from his Miami Star Island or whatever to, but the woman who Gloria Allred had with her on that press conference yesterday, and I'm not saying that any woman should ever be treated he's disgusting, but she wasn't even somebody who was trying to suck up to him. She was like, her boyfriend worked for Diddy. So
yeah,
she was like she wasn't even, there was no part of her that could even get excited in an innocent way because she didn't even want to be there. It's so horrible. And then they have video of her being raped. Oh wait, being ard. We can't say that word. I don't
yeah,
want to say that, and I
yeah,
don't want to say that word. It's just horrible.
yeah. I just
So
want to
that
say graped. I've heard it on other channels.
grape,
People say graped.
graped. So
Yeah.
she's been graped, and so when I was listening to that press conference, I'm like, I don't care if he gets eaten by cockroaches, and I don't mean that because I don't have compassion. And look, and he could have a spiritual awakening in there, and really get on his knees and cry and say, he could wake up. The fever could break and he could realize, oh my God, I'm a horror, and maybe do good work in prison and redeem himself as a human to a certain extent. But I
Mhm.
can't feel bad for him. And whatever his path is, this may be the greatest thing that ever happens to him because he may find a God that works.
Yeah. And I think, this is difficult because there's, millions of people locked up right now. And I don't have the same energy towards them, right? People that have been accused and convicted of, sexual assault. Um, and I don't know, it's a very curious case for me because I don't really understand why I sympathize with him to a certain extent. Maybe it really is because he feels like a person that I know because I've
Mhm.
seen him so much. Um, but if this is any other person that's, well, maybe it's also because he hasn't been convicted yet. And I think, um, more evidence will come to surface because so far other than the Cassie video,
That video is
uh,
horrible.
right. And so, but that's different than sexual assault, right? And I've said this before, for that alone, he deserves to be in jail, right? But all these other things, I think for me, once there's been like concrete, more like evidence and he's been put away, I think maybe that will kind of like resolve it more, because there's millions of people locked behind bars right now that I don't sympathize for, where I'm like, yeah, like lock them up and throw away the key, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder what that thing is with Diddy. And I was thinking about it this morning, and this is what occurred to me. I think it's because all these things are coming out, but we're not hearing from him. I almost feel like it's a disservice to um to the public
Mm-hmm.
that we don't get to hear his rebuttals or like his anything from him, because it's, and this goes to being a public figure, because in a normal situation when someone is accused, that person, like in a private setting, that person can like stand up and say, no, I did this or I didn't do this, right? But
Mm-hmm.
because he's one, a public figure, and he is now locked up, um we don't get to hear anything from him, obviously for legal reasons, but maybe not even for legal reasons. Maybe he just wouldn't have, these rumors have been out there since the 90s, and he didn't speak on them then either. But
Mm-hmm.
there's just something curious about so many allegations being um thrown against the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and then feeling like he can't defend himself. I almost feel like, wait, am I reacting to a feeling of that he's being bullied a little bit? And he deserves to be bullied, but it's still this like empathy, I think, that I feel um for just a human being. Take away the fact that he's Diddy, take away the fact that he's done all these things.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm feeling empathy in a way that maybe I would feel if this was my brother, right? And this is a very curious feeling, because I want to play this clip, and you already mentioned, this young lady, Talia Graves,
Mm-hmm.
and in the press. I want to play the clip, but then when I see that clip and I see her crying and these allegations against him, I do believe her. So that
Mm-hmm.
also makes me feel like F this guy, like,
Right.
lock him up, throw away the key. He shouldn't like see the light of day just for like a percentage of the things that he's being accused of. But anyway, it's
Right.
it's very conflicting, and I think for myself, I will feel some type of resolution once there's a conviction and this kind of settles down, because there's just so much coming at me. I'll play this clip real quick.
Already, and with me is our client, plaintiff Thalia Graves. Today, we filed a lawsuit in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, for our client, plaintiff Thalia Graves, who is given permission to use her name. The case number of the 26-page complaint is 1:24 CV 07201. In her lawsuit, Thalia, through her attorneys, sues Sean Diddy Combs, also known as the defendant, and another individual and other entities. The complaint alleges in part in the first cause of action that defendant Combs and another defendant committed a, quote, violation of New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act by viciously and violently forcing sexual contact, oral sex, and sexual intercourse on the plaintiff, end quote. In addition, the complaint alleges in the second cause of action that defendant Combs and another defendant committed a violation of New York civil rights law, quote, section 52-B, end quote, by, quote, raping plaintiff and recording it. Defendants caused plaintiff to be depicted in a video image, unclothed and with intimate body parts exposed, and engaged in sexual conduct with another person, end quote. The lawsuit also alleges that, quote, defendant Combs and another defendant published and or disseminated the videos without plaintiff's knowledge or consent. On information and belief, defendants have continued to disseminate the video, including by selling it as pornography through the present, end quote.
Yeah, so, I mean, you already stated this, but basically what she's saying in legalese over there is that she was raped by Diddy and his bodyguard. She was drugged and then restrained down to, like, on a pool table, and
Hmm.
they filmed the entire thing, and they've been using it as blackmail against her, and when she's been asked why she hasn't come forward sooner, it's because allegedly Diddy threatened to destroy her life, and this is all alleged, of course. This is a suit. But I don't know, seeing that we've heard this from so many other people, it's believable, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it's yeah, it is pretty unbelievable. And but see, for me, I don't know that anybody can ruin anyone's life so easily in this situation. Like she would be embarrassed and mortified, obviously, if the whole world saw that video. But sometimes, and I'm not saying this because I'm not a woman, but I mean, there's a part of me that thinks she just knows on some level that she needs to see this guy go down, and if she can help, it actually gives her freedom from those threats and stuff. But the poor thing, like I'm a bit of a dirtbag, so if a video surfaced of me having sex voluntarily or involuntarily, I'd be like, whatever. Like, I don't mean like whatever, but I mean like I wouldn't think that's going to destroy my life. But this woman, she just seems so innocent and pure. Like, she just seemed like somebody you can't even imagine her being within a mile of these gangsters. You know what I mean? These types of people. It was just heartbreaking to see the particular woman. And again, maybe that's some kind of bias where I need to be more sympathetic to everyone, but she just seemed like she didn't belong. Like she didn't want to be there. It seemed like not in the grape, of course, but it seemed like she didn't even want to be a part of the hip hop culture. She just seemed like she was out of place. I don't know what it was about
Why
her.
why do you say that?
Just and it may be just her demeanor and the demure approach because of the seriousness of the setting. But when I read the story, I think her boyfriend worked for Diddy, and it just seemed like like sometimes when I have Sheila with my crew of people, I'm just like, oh my God, she's too good for this. She doesn't belong in the shit talking and the rock and roll, whatever we do. And you know what I mean? Like my friends who are in hip hop culture and rap and produce, there's a grit and a strength they have for that world that this girl just didn't seem like she had that. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. It just seemed she seemed so out of place in that environment, even in an innocent way. I don't know what it was. Maybe that's like some kind of microaggression. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually take a little bit of offense to that because even if it was someone that was comfortable in the hip hop world or setting, it would be just as horrible.
But I
I don't
said that.
understand really.
No, I said that, and I agree with that. But it's kind of like, how do you have sympathy for Diddy after what he did? There's a certain like it's. I guess because I know people, men and women, who go into crazy situations wanting to get something out of the situation, and then to this, it just seems like some people are willing to play a certain amount of a game, and then they find out, oh my God, like all of Harvey Weinstein's victims and stuff. It's just like what they weren't expecting it, but they're in that world. But it just seems like she was dragged from like work, and then she ended up at her boyfriend's work, and it just seemed like, I don't know what it is about that girl. It just made me want to cry. I don't know. It's not a lack of sympathy for the other people. It's just, I don't know. Maybe she reminds me of my daughter. I don't know. There's just something that killed me about. That's when my sympathy for Diddy ended, when I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's horrible when seeing, like, so on the one hand, it's like, oh, he's locked up and suicidal and he's not eating, and that's horrible. But then you hear what he has allegedly done to this woman, and it's just like he should have stopped eating 20 years ago when this happened,
Right, so he
right?
couldn't harm these people.
Right, like maybe, so it's like, and I think it's good that, I mean, some people might say like, why is she coming forward now? And the internet is going to talk. It's like, oh, it's a money grab. Why is she coming forward now when
Yeah,
she could have?
that didn't
And that's,
seem like that. That
yeah, and that's horrible because we've also seen this like in both Epstein and the Weinstein case that when one victim comes forward, more victims are more likely to come forward. And Diddy wasn't just threatened to disseminate this video. I mean, when he said that he threatened her to destroy her life, that could have also meant like
beating her up and stuff.
I don't know what it meant, but I mean, he's a very intimidating man, and I mean, he's one of the allegations against him is blowing up a car,
Yeah,
Kid Cudi's car, because he spoke to Cassie. So it's like
that's
I think
crazy.
there's a lot of intimidation going on and a lot of harassment that's happened allegedly, that we've been hearing from other victims as well. So again, yeah, it's that conflicting thing,
So,
right? Yeah.
you use the word, and I think properly, and I don't think this is just legalese for you, and I say allegedly, right? You can't, the fact that we convict people in the court of public opinion is horrible, right? He is innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But based on the fact that he was denied bail, requested by the prosecutors, denied by the judge, they must have a pretty strong indictment. Like, in other words, there must just be so much stuff. But then I ask myself, you heard that prison guy, the prison consultant saying, hey, he could be poisoned. You realize this thing where they get rid of people is real. Who at the top could be behind no bail? Who at the top how do we know this judge isn't paid off? How do we know, again, because they keep talking about his high up entertainment friends who need to be protected, but I think this goes higher up than that. And by the way, I'm about to mention Barack Obama. I don't think Barack Obama is a dirtbag at all. I don't think he engages in that kind of stuff. There's a video I saw on MTV of Diddy with Barack Obama years ago. And he starts saying, like, see, everybody here is sweating. I don't sweat because I'm cool. I do this all the time. And he's like kind of bragging to everybody that he's so cool. And he's doing this to the president of the United States. And Barack Obama was so funny. He said, yeah, maybe you should try putting on one of those designer shirts of yours. You'd be sweating like me. And then Obama takes his sport jacket off. And it just seemed narcissistic that he's talking to the leader of the free world and almost like shit talking to him. And that's when I realized, watching that clip, how narcissistic he must be to think he can get away with this stuff. I would never, even if I didn't like the president, I would never speak to a president of the United States so disrespectfully.
But I also wonder if, and this kind of goes with, we've had these discussions before about like when R. Kelly was, facing his judgment day, can we separate the art from the artist? And on some level, I do think it's also like unfair because I've been seeing all these clips resurfacing where it's like, oh, like Diddy 20 years ago, he said that he was having a wild party this weekend. Or
Right.
there's this other like clip that resurfaced of Kevin Hart hosting one of the parties. So it's like, oh, Kevin Hart was at the freak off. And like, so I think it's also unfair to go back and look at clips that could just be like harmless clips and like attribute everything to this situation. And because I think what's important now is to just really stick to the facts of the case and
I agree with that.
and trust that the government is doing a good job. The prosecution is doing a good job at collecting like real evidence, not like a clip of Diddy at a party and Kevin Hart. So I think right now what's important, I think, is to kind of really distinguish between like internet court and real court, and maybe like I don't know. I just think that like what you described on the MTV thing, it was probably like scripted even and meant to, it probably maybe even like helped the president at the time for his popularity because like,
Right.
oh, he's like affiliated to Diddy. But now looking back, it's like, oh, his narcissism. So I think like, I don't think that part is fair,
Well, I don't think it's fair to use that as evidence of anything, but it was surprising to me. What was surprising to me was it just seemed like a lack of awareness. Now, it could have been scripted, but Barack Obama almost looked a little bit annoyed, like he was calling out Barack Obama for not being as cool as him. Barack Obama is a pretty cool dude, whether you like him politically or not. He's like a savvy dude. Like he's the coolest president we've had, if you ask me. And
Yeah, but yeah.
wicked smart. and like, like I don't think any of the presidents before or after him are as smart as him. So
Right, but that's not the point. The point is like these things Diddy was celebrated
I know,
for 20, 30 plus years, right?
right?
And like we are the ones who put money in his pocket. We fuel this because we were like, we like what Diddy's doing.
I
So
gave
like
him
there's
money.
also like, we also have to take accountability if we're going to call out, narcissism in the celebrity community, because it's also not fair because we were encouraging these things. I
Hmm.
mean, even today there are plenty of artists who are, braggadocious and narcissistic that we all follow on social media, and we're just like, oh yes, click like whatever, and then in 10 years from now it's like, oh yeah, he was always a dirtbag, you know
Well,
what I mean? It's like we liked it at the time. It was bad boy. Everyone is like bad boy for life, you know what I mean?
yeah,
That was the thing.
yeah. See, I don't. Oh, I never celebrate like that part of celebrity. I like music and I like comedy, and what I love about comedians is they're self-effacing. You know what I mean?
What do
Like
you call it? What?
self-effacing. Like I would imagine, I could imagine somebody like Bill Burr saying to a president, like, "I can't talk to you. I'm just a comedian." Like, blow himself up instead of saying that he was cooler. That you know what I mean? So but yeah, no, you're right. Look, P Diddy. Other than the video that I saw with my own eyes, P Diddy is innocent until proven guilty, if you ask me. And look, I would love. I don't know. I don't. I mean, if we found out that this was all a setup, I guess I feel bad for him a little bit still.
Now that I don't believe. I
No, I
definitely
don't
think that
either.
he's guilty of, if not all, like a lot of the things that being alleged against him. I do think this man is guilty and he deserves to serve some time. Again, because we have proof that he beat a woman. We saw with our own
We saw it
eyes.
with our
So
own
for
eyes.
that
Right.
alone, he should be behind bars.
Right.
But I think it's important that, you know, everything that's thrown at him, especially these clips that I've been watching online, is just insane. And now, Kim Porter's book, um you know it hasn't been like independently verified that it's actually that
Yeah,
it's coming from her
her,
and
because
her
she's dead, right?
kids.
Yeah,
Right, her, well,
she's
also
the
her.
ex-wife, right? She's the
They weren't
baby
married.
mom, right?
Yeah, I don't think they were married, but his, like, the mother of his
M-
children, and his, like, I guess, like, the main woman in his life. But and I guess her, one of her best friends came out and said that, oh no, this book didn't come from her,
Right.
whereas other people are like, oh, this came directly from her. So but we don't know, so like literally anyone at this point could. I mean, you and I, we're content creators, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it not true that we could script a bit or like a little thing and just record it and put it out there as if it's true? Like you and I,
100%.
we could stage an argument right now, right?
Yeah,
And put it
totally.
out there and just be like, oh my god, Saran, Eric, huge fight, right?
Right.
So and we're like, we don't even have like followers like that, right? There's no
Uh,
money in it for people to kind of like set us up or anything.
Right.
Imagine when we're talking like hundred millions of dollars, billions. Like people are going to do all types of crazy things, to get internet attention, even if it is like compiling and editing a bunch of clips so that it looks a certain way, right? That's why
Right.
I'm like, um I stand by like all the victims, and I hope that he deserves, that he is punished accordingly, but I'm going to reserve that level of judgment
You have to. Yeah.
until he sees his day in court.
I
And maybe
agree.
that's the lawyer in me talking, I don't know, but
No,
I
but
just.
that's also human because people look. There's a man who I read on TMZ. There's a black man in one of the states who may have been executed last night, and they were trying to stay the execution. And apparently, the DNA says he's innocent, and the prosecutors are like, "Whoa, don't do like." Even the prosecutors and the system wants to. Again, I don't see that he was executed yet, and some of the celebrities were jumping in. Men, especially black men are wrongfully convicted all the time, and you have to believe women. They need to have a voice, but you also can't execute innocent people. So it's a really tough thing. So your tact of allegedly is proper because if not, then it's just a matter of opinion. And interestingly enough, when somebody beats someone up on camera, it's still allegedly until that day in court. They need to be judged by a jury or a judge, depending on the
Mhm.
type of trial, and that's when you're officially guilty of that crime. And I think
Right.
that's
Right.
It's
And I think
important.
also like some things, I mean, this is how I imagine Diddy. Like he's sitting in his cell and it's like, all these allegations against him. And he's probably like, yeah, these things I definitely did. And then there's probably other things where it's like, wait, I didn't even do that. Right.
Right.
So yeah, he'll probably be locked up for the rest of his life for the things that he actually did do. But I'm sure there are things here and there that, were harmless at the time. For instance, like maybe he did fly someone out for sex, right? But maybe
Mhm.
that person wanted to be there. And maybe
Right.
that person like wanted to get paid. You hear about it all the time, right? Like women being flown out and rappers, giving them 10K, 20K, because it's also part of the lifestyle. It's like you're flexing, you're showing that you can pay women, right, for their time, right?
Right.
Like you're not a broke bum, so to
Right.
speak. That's also part of the culture. So I'm sure there are moments like that, right? But then there
Mhm.
are probably also moments that are more sinister and actually like, that you would think is like, all right, this person deserves to be in jail for that. I think there are both scenarios. And I
Mhm.
think it's moments like that where I think people are kind of like, or where he's probably sitting and thinking like, wait, I'm guilty of this, but I'm not guilty of that because she wanted to come and
Right.
hang
Right.
out. But I definitely raped that person. But either way, it's like he's gonna go away, right?
Right.
Please subscribe so that we can bring you guys more content like this. Appreciate y'all. Later.